You ever have one of those days where the world just decides to test every ounce of your patience before breakfast? That was me, Alana Reed. The morning I showed up for my first day as commander. I hadn't even made it through the front doors before three officers, who had no clue who I was, boxed me in, throwing attitude, slinging suspicion, acting like I'd broken into my own station. I stood there, calm, not a hair out of place, holding a sealed envelope under my arm, while they puffed up, flashed those badges, and tried to rattle me. But I didn't react, didn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, I walked right past their humiliation and into the office that, as of that morning, I outranked them all. You know what I mean? Some folks see a new face and think their job is to protect the status quo, but I came in with something bigger on my mind, something that would rock this department from the inside out. Now, let me back up a sec. It was barely 7. The station was still waking up, sun barely cresting over the staff lot, and I'm standing there in plain slacks and a gray blouse. No uniform, not today. I wanted to see the place for what it really was, not how people pretended when a boss walked in. My contact was late, and that's all the time it took for the air to shift. I hear, "You need to move away from that door." This guy, square jaw, looking like every high school linebacker who peaked early, strides over, hand hovering near his holster, dripping suspicion like it's cologne. He asks what I'm doing, says it's restricted. I tell him, cool as ice, I'm waiting on an official file transfer. He scans me head to toe, stops at my shoes, like my footwear is going to tell him if I'm friend or foe. When I say my name, it's like I'm speaking another language. Another officer, blonde, quick-witted, quick with her mouth, joins in. "We don't do unscheduled loitering around here." I flash my badge. She laughs, says it looks fake. They give me a countdown to get lost or face arrest. You'd think this was a bad sitcom. There's a third officer hanging back, coffee in hand, not saying much, just watching. There's always one who sees what's happening but doesn't know what to do. I ask, "You sure you want to do this?" They try to rattle me, but I keep it steady. Then, out of nowhere, the question drops. "Do you treat all women like this? Or just the black ones?" The smirk on her face says it all that I could have yelled, could have snapped, could have given them a show for the ages, but that's not who I am. I walked inside, calm as ever, and let their words echo behind me. In that silence, you could feel the threat. They weren't just policing a parking lot. They were guarding a way of life, and I was about to shake at point 8 o'clock sharp. I step into the conference room, now in full uniform, collar shining, not a paper in my hands except a remote. The room goes dead quiet. All eyes on me, including those three. I don't ask for attention. I take it. "I'm Commander Reed," I announce. "As of this morning, I'm leading this precinct." Some shift in their seats. No one speaks. I tell them, this isn't about shifting patrols or moving desks. It's about culture, conduct, and accountability. I hit the remote. The screen lights up with a photo, a young black man in uniform. My brother. Served nearly a decade. Never missed a call, until the day he stood up for a rookie who was being harassed. He told the truth and paid the price, gone within a month. I let the silence hang, let it sting. Then I asked them, if someone watched your last 10 minutes outside this building, no sound, just body language, what would they think of this department? No one answers, but you can see some throats tighten. I'm not here to humiliate. I'm here to make sure humiliation finds its way back to where it belongs. I give them a choice, step up or keep hiding. Covering for each other's misconduct ends now. Later, in my office, I watch the footage from the morning. Dalton jabbing his finger in my face, Jenna's cold smirk, Tyler's silence. I save the clip, South Lot, 7:42 a.m., just facts, not threats. Tyler knocks, nervous as a kid, apologizes for freezing up, says he should have spoken up. I tell him, silence in moments like that speaks louder than a badge. He asks if it's going on the record. That's up to him. Next, Angela Lopez brings a misconduct report. I hold off for now. I'm giving them a choice, not a rope to hang themselves. People show their true colors after the fire dies down. Meanwhile, Dalton's fuming in the locker room, venting to anyone who'll listen. Claims I only got here because of a quota, not because I earned it. Jenna sits, her hands shaking, haunted by a viral clip, her laughing while I'm humiliated. The internet is merciless. Angela walks in. She's been around long enough to know the difference between a problem and a storm coming. She tells me city council wants this contained, not investigated. I tell her, truth has a way of leaking through cracks. Let's see how wide they get. That night, Tyler sits at home, listens again to Dalton's rant, realizes he's been part of a culture, not just a mistake. He types up a full report, attaches the audio, and sends it to the inspector general. Just like that, the wall of silence begins to crack. Back at the station, I keep Aaron's badge in a velvet box. When I see it, I remember what they did to him for standing up, not protecting weakness, but dignity. Angela admits she should have spoken up back then, but fear kept her quiet. I remind her, courage is contagious, but so is silence. Days pass. The investigation goes public. State officials come in. Dalton's locker room tape plays in front of the whole precinct. When they ask for his badge and gun, he tries to fight it, but there's nowhere left to run. Tyler's statement, clear, honest, tips the scales. Jenna brings me a handwritten apology, says she'll show her change, not just say it. For the first time, you feel the air shift. Even those who stayed quiet want to step forward, a formal recognition. I pin a medal on Tyler for moral courage. The applause isn't loud, but it's real. Angela and I announce retraining. Nothing's off the table. A veteran steps forward, says he's tired of standing behind men like Dalton. I shake his hand. Then we start here. Weeks go by. The precinct feels different, lighter, honest. Tyler becomes a bridge between the old guard and the new. I remain steady, not out of control, but for clarity. One afternoon, I pause under the new plaque. Command begins with character. It shines in the sun, right where my brother once stood, punished but not erased. Sometimes the most powerful stand is the one taken in silence, not out of fear, but out of strength. I didn't shout. I didn't retaliate. I let truth and dignity do the work. Justice, no matter how long it takes, starts with one person who refuses to back down. If this story makes you think, if it stirs something in you, share your thoughts below. Is silence always weakness? Or can it be the beginning of real change? Let's talk about what real courage looks like, right here, right now. You know, people think that once the cameras leave, once the statements are made and the doors close behind the bad apples, life just goes back to normal, like the storm passes and all you have to do is mop up the puddles and move on. But that's not how it works, not really. Change, it lingers. It stirs up the dust in places you never expected, and sometimes it shows up in the quietest corners of your life. Long after you thought the fight was over, the precinct had this new energy after Dalton was gone, after the retraining began. But don't get me wrong, nobody threw a parade, nobody hugged it out in the hallways. You could feel it, though, in little things, the way people held doors a second longer, the way eyes lingered in morning briefings, searching for some signal, some hint that things might really be different this time. Tyler Mason, the same officer who'd frozen up that first morning, he started to walk with a new purpose, like he'd finally decided which side of the line he wanted to stand on, and you could see younger recruits watching him, like they were waiting to see what courage looked like when the headlines faded. Angela Lopez was a rock through it all, steady, sharp-eyed, always 3 steps ahead. She handled the reviews with a kind of gentle but relentless honesty, like she was more interested in helping people grow than in catching them out. But if you crossed a line, you'd feel it. Her silence could freeze you quicker than any shouting ever could. And me? Well, I kept showing up early, just like always. I'd walk the halls, nod at the folks who didn't know whether to meet my eyes or look away, and I'd sit in my office with Aaron's badge close by, a reminder that some things are worth standing up for, no matter what they cost. But let me tell you, the real surprise, the twist that nobody saw coming, didn't start inside the station at all. It started out in the community, with people who'd spent years looking at our building and seeing nothing but walls. It was a Tuesday, late afternoon, sky-threatening rain. when an older woman named Miss Bernice marched up to our steps with a tray of homemade lemon squares, set it down at the front desk, and asked to speak to the new commander. The whole place went quiet. You could practically hear the skepticism crackling in the air. But when I came out to greet her, she just smiled, warm and fierce, and said, "About time we had someone who knows what it's like to keep quiet because you know words won't help. Not yet. Don't let the city wear you down, baby." Her voice was a soft thunder. I thanked her and watched as a few younger officers tried lemon squares for the first time, faces lighting up like maybe, just maybe, things could start to taste a little sweeter around here. Meanwhile, not everyone was happy about the changes. There was backlash, whispers from old hands about the good old days, and private text chains that lit up with complaints the moment my back was turned. Some folks said I was too soft. Others said I was out for blood. You can't win, Amal. But what mattered was what happened next. It was the end of the month when a letter arrived from Internal Affairs, anonymous tips, new allegations, stuff I had never even heard about. I'll admit, for a second, my stomach dropped, because fighting for what's right doesn't mean you're immune to fear. But this time, instead of circling the wagons, officers started stepping forward. One after another, sometimes shaky, sometimes angry, but honest. Tyler brought a written statement about something he'd witnessed 2 years before. Angela offered to mediate a sit-down between officers from 2 feuding shifts. Even Jenna Marks, the one who used to laugh the loudest, asked to join the new community outreach program. When I asked her why, she just said, "Turns out the echo chamber isn't as safe as I thought. Maybe it's time to hear some new voices." One day, as I was leaving late, I saw Sergeant Miguel Banks, the quiet guy sitting alone in the empty briefing room, reviewing the new code of conduct like he was learning to speak again. "I should have spoken up sooner," he admitted, not looking up. "We all should have." I told him, "It's not about who shouts the loudest. It's about who stays standing when it counts." He smiled a little, a real one, and nodded. That was enough, but the biggest test came not from within, but when a city council member tried to block our new transparency policy. He called me into his office, tried to play the old power game, said the department needed to focus on optics, not upheaval. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "With all due respect, sir, the only optics that matter are the ones that let the public see us for who we really are. I'm not here to tidy up your headlines." He didn't like it, but he couldn't argue with it either. That's the thing about truth, it makes cowards squirm and gives the brave something solid to stand on. And just when I thought I'd seen it all, the real twist showed up. One morning, as I reviewed the latest round of feedback forms, I found a handwritten note from Janelle, the same 12-year-old who'd written to me after my first TV interview. She'd come by the station with her mom to drop it off in person. The note was short, just a few lines. "I saw you speak up. My teacher told me to use my voice too. I did. It helped someone. Thank you." That right there made every silent battle worth it. By the end of that quarter, the department was, well, not perfect. Still rough around the edges, still learning, still stumbling at times. But people started calling us with hope in their voices, not just complaints. Kids waved when we drove by. And even some of the toughest skeptics started letting their guards down, just enough to let something new in point. One evening, I stood by the windows of my office, looking out over the city, the sky wide and gold with sunset. Angela walked in quietly, a folder in hand, but she just stood there for a second, watching the light spill across my desk. "You ever get tired?" she asked softly. I shook my head. "Every day. But I remember who I'm doing this for." She smiled, that rare, deep smile. "Well, we're with you." Downstairs, Tyler and Jenna were organizing the first ever precinct open house, inviting the community inside. No scripts, no barriers, just honest conversation. I watched through the glass as Miss Bernice handed out lemon squares and Janelle giggled with an officer twice her size. Miguel Banks shook hands with a former critic, both of them awkward, both of them relieved. That night, as I turned out the lights, I paused in front of Aaron's badge one last time. I pressed my palm to the velvet box and whispered, "We're getting there, big brother. One day at a time." You know, some people think change comes from shouting the loudest or breaking things apart. But sometimes, real transformation starts in the quiet, when one person stands still, and then another, and another, until suddenly the silence isn't emptiness anymore. It's courage, multiplied. It's a new beginning. So, let me leave you with this, folks. Have you ever been the one who stood silent when you should have spoken up? Or maybe you found your voice after years of doubt. Tell me your story. Because that's how we learn, how we grow, one truth at a time, one step forward, no matter how small. Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what real change means to you. And if this story moved you, don't forget to share, because sometimes the world needs to know. The quietest voices can build the strongest foundations.